So tonight's format, just for those who don't know, is we took questions from the Facebook group, and we're gonna do a little bit of audience questions at the end of it. But we're trying to answer questions that y'all have, problems that y'all are actually having out in the real world. So we're gonna go through those. We're gonna have our team try to answer them, but also if you have an answer for something, raise your hand, chime in. We want this to be collaborative and helpful. So getting started. If you're not part of the Facebook group, join the Facebook group. We have, I think, 3,000 or 4,000 members. A lot of business goes through there. To be a part of the Facebook group and join the website, go register, name, email, just so you can stay in touch with everything that's going on. And of course, the meeting, first Tuesday of every month, 6:30, will be here in Red 6 Social. We have a bar, we have networking, socializing. So. All right, we want to thank our sponsors. Look, it's not easy to always do this, and so we really appreciate our sponsors contributing to it. If you'd ever like to sponsor, please let any of us know. We're always looking for help just to keep this group going. So tonight's first sponsor is Pastor Roberts. I'm going to let Asa talk about his company a little bit because he has been working to deal with him as we speak.
Yeah, let me read this because it was a new one. Make sure I get it right. Thank you. Patrick Linder, who originally from Zachary area, invests locally in Baton Rouge. He focuses on working with investors and offers mortgages, including traditional DSCR loans. Through Assurance Financial, Patrick is also a real estate note investor and buys mortgages through his company, Station 28. So that's the piece I wanted to read and make sure I got it right. That's the business I've been doing more with him lately. So on these rentals, refis, and everything like that, Patrick is actually investing in notes now. So not only can you go through insurance, through assurance, you can also speak with Patrick directly about some other alternatives, hard money investing. There are a lot of questions about hard money investors, private money, that kind of stuff. So Patrick, I can speak on behalf. We closed the deal today with him actually, and he's been just phenomenal to work with. And y'all will see sponsors or people we do regular business with. This is not just pay to play. We're just gonna act like, you know, bit of shit. So that's it. Sorry, I'm the crowd.
I don't know if we did this. Patrick, raise your hand, just so everyone knows who you are. Just to make sure that's Patrick. That's what we're talking about. He is here. Yeah, well, to make sure. All right. Next sponsor is Gorman Brothers. So they are right here local. They have a range of high-quality appliances, lighting, countertops, home decor accessories, probably serving customers in Prairieville and surrounding areas. So this is Mike Gorman. I used them for some of my properties that I manage. Service is great. They take care of the tenants, make sure they're kept up to date. Took care of stove for us this week, so cannot recommend them enough. That's who I personally use. Mike, you want to raise your hand for us? Appreciate you, Mike. Thank y'all again.
I'll get all the business.
All right, so introduction. So if you are a wholesaler, raise your hand. If you are a flipper, raise your hand. Contractors? A little bit higher. We only got two. Okay. Title attorneys? Insurance agents? Got one. Property managers? Oh, yes. Okay. All right, so private and hard money lenders, instead of you raising your hand, if you have a deal and you were looking for funding for it, private or hard money, raise your hand if you have a deal. All right, so for the private money lenders, those are the people who have deals for you. Also, just to kind of gauge the record, if you've done less than 5 deals, put your hand up. If you've done over 5 deals, put your hand up.
Anything, wholesale, flipping, rentals, anything more than you went to a title company more than 5 times.
If you've done more than 20 deals, raise your hand. Okay.
I would say on that, can y'all hear me? Real quick, the 5 or more, hold your hands up again. Okay, this is just gonna help the newbies who want to go find and like learn more about real estate, these are your people you go talk to. We don't know everything up here, so like it's not all about us. I'll be more than happy to talk to you. I can't talk to every single one of you. So those of you who are looking to get started and have questions, anybody in this room raising their hand with 5 or more deals under their belt are going to be able to provide you just as much value as I can right now. So that's why we can do that. This is you.
Okay, so questions on the night, we'll go ahead and get started.
All right, so quick intro for why we're kind of wanting to do this tonight. So we realized that, like Asa said, I mean, we don't know it all, right? There's a lot of experience in this room, a lot of people that have seen situations that we haven't. So I don't know if anyone here has read the book, Tribe of Millionaires. Anyone? Raise your hand.
Say again.
Okay, got one in the back, certainly. So we're about familiar with the concept of a mastermind. Anybody? Okay. So I kind of got this concept from that, just thinking about, okay, how can we get the whole room involved, make this feel more like a community rather than just us standing up here talking at y'all. So really kind of trying to make this more collaborative, leverage the knowledge of the people in this room. So that's kind of why we came up with this topic, and that's sort of what we've been talking about, trying to make kind of the theme this year is making this feel more like a community, making it feel more collaborative rather than y'all just listening to us talk. All right, so first question we got here, and we want to kind of open this up to the room too, right? So if you feel like Greg answered this question, we'll give you the mic. How to find good general contractors. So this is the fun one. Yeah?
My favorite answer I ever got was fire a lot of lousy ones.
That's good. That's good. Ace's got familiar with that. So what things?
You take it first, I'll take it.
All right, so I've actually only used 2 general contractors. I got really lucky. The first guy that in his crew that I used, they did a pretty decent job for us, but the second crew that I found, been using him now for the last 4 years, and he's just fantastic. So I'm probably not the best person to answer this question, because I haven't had a chance to run through a lot of them. I was able to meet him through other real estate investors, so just asking, like, hey, who does your deals? Were you happy with them? I think this guy actually came across, was looking at a firehouse in Gonzales, and he was on the job with the guy who was trying to sell it to us, and said, hey, here's my contractor, if you buy the deal, he'll do it for this much, and then ended up doing that one, but I called him on the next job we had, and he's fantastic. So, hey, so what you got for us?
I, on the other hand, have had plenty of bad contractors. We'll get right into this one. No, so there is no such thing as a good contractor. There is just a good, thorough owner, right? A diligent owner. So it's kind of like this time of year, everybody talks to their CPA, and they're like, it's kind of, about my CPA. Well, it's because you didn't focus on your taxes all year until now. So you can't blame your CPA because you weren't thorough all year. So it's the same story on contractors, where, again, there's no such thing as a good contractor. I can give you the quick rundown as like, go catch them at at Home Depot early in the morning and go, I could go even farther than that and say, go to your local supply houses for LCR and, ProSource and all that. Go catch the guys who are in there at 5, 6 a.m. when they're first getting started, because those are the guys who are not hungover, not drunk, not, messed over from the day before or whatever. They have a family, they have a house to feed, they're serious, and they're ready to get started, at a normal time of day. That's the basic answer, but again, there is no such thing as a good contractor. It's just a thorough owner, and you have to be very, very specific with your scopes and your expectations, your draw schedules. Don't ever, 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 ever let your contractor control materials. Do not do it. They will take your money and run. They don't mean to a lot of times. Sometimes they do, but most of the time they just don't know any better. They're contractors. They're not managers. They're not project managers. A lot of times they just have the contacts of the people who have the trades and the ability to do it. So it's kind of a loaded question to find a good contractor. I joke about it, but I am serious. There's really no such thing. You just have to be a thorough owner. You have to be extremely clear about your expectations, good draw schedules, and control on materials. That's kind of how you protect against bad contractors. Like he said, just fire a bunch of bad ones.
Anybody else have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Any additional points?
I just want to ask like a clarifying question, like the draw schedule. So would you like do everything project by project, or like we're gonna like do the flooring and then the baseboard or whatever, the trim? Like, is that what you mean? Like,
Yeah, so the question is, on draw schedules, how are we handling draw schedules and at what points are we paying and all that? I personally have found that it's better to dangle a carrot than it is to give them a lot of leeway. Meaning, if my project, what I like to do is if my project is going to take a estimated 6-week completion, I personally prefer to do a 6-draw payout on that. So it's a weekly payout on Friday. And again, that's the clear expectations of it. You need to have a clear and concise scope that week 1, you will have this part completed, right? And only then will you get paid. You can make up for it the next week. If it took you to the following Tuesday or Wednesday and you trimmed out that Friday, I'll pay you again Friday. But I hold them to their standards and to their scope as to how much they can complete by the end of each week of that draw schedule. So if they think it's going to take 4 weeks, I'll give them 4 draws. If they think it's going to take 8 weeks, they're going to get 8 draws because I'm not giving that much money to a contractor to let them just run away with it. So your draw needs to be communicated clearly with your contractor. And if you can't communicate that clearly or they can't give you a strict timeline on their project, that's a bad contractor. So, does that make sense?
Smart.
What you got?
Any other warning signs that you may have gotten involved in that early? Would you still do something about it?
Yeah, so it depends on the project and we get into permits. I really want to do a panel on permits at some point this year. I don't know how much y'all get value out of that, but if you're pulling permits, you need to absolutely check your contractor's licenses and make sure that he carries the right license. There's a remodeler's permit and there's a renovation permit and a remodel permit, if I'm saying that right. There's 2 types of permits, where if the project's under $50,000, just about anybody can get that license. If it's over that, it's harder to get, it's a harder license to get. You will not be able to pull permits, you will not be able to get a certificate of occupancy. Your project will not finish. Ask me how I know. So depending on the project size and what kind of permits you're pulling, check your licenses. I'm going to always require W-9s before I start paying anything, require insurance certification COIs listing me as additionally insured. If they can't answer very basic, let me see your license, let me see your insurance, and let me see your W-9, that's a very easy, you'd be shocked how many contractors you will weed out by asking those few questions.
What are some of the biggest things to look out for when starting out in real estate investing?
All right. What we got in the room? I want to hear from one of y'all. Any experienced people, the 20 plus?
I would say an ugly house will always be an ugly house. That's not me.
So when you look at buying a deal, not all deals are deals. So just because the comps may be an X square foot for that neighborhood, doesn't mean that that house will ever sell for that price per square foot. And so you've got to look at comps loosely in that house is an ugly duck, and that's the reason it's not selling. And I think too many people bring a lot of deals to me saying, hey, this is awesome, we take comps out of this one. There's no way in heck. It's never gonna sell for that. And I think new people will miss the mark on looking at statistics and numbers based on what has sold. And that is a tool, but that's not the end tool to get you the true answers that will actually sell and it will work.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, if a house, you walk into a house and you're like, oh, this looks kind of weird. Oh, they are research, it'll sell for X. Trust your gut. If the house feels weird, if you're like, oh man, I don't know, trust it. Because somebody else is gonna walk in and get the exact same thing. What else you got? What?
Yeah. Again, I'm sorry, this is not, okay.
I would just warn you when it comes to education for real estate, there's good education and bad education. And don't be willing to spend tens of thousands of dollars on education if you're not actually doing
So
use
good.
or moving forward with actions. Okay? Most of the people that I know that do well in real estate are taking action on what they're learning, and they don't get into that paralysis analysis. As one of my mentors said, most subjects in real estate are a couple inches deep, but they're like 9 miles wide. So don't think you'll ever know it all. Develop some people that you can reach out to and take action on what you're learning.
Yeah, I'm done. That's exactly what I was gonna say. So, there's so many, if anybody's selling you a dream, it's just a dream, do not spend the money on the coaching, do not spend the money. I think there are good masterminds to join. I think that is a grow, not start position, right? I will happily join a $100,000 a year mastermind if it's gonna take me from making $1 million to $5 million a year. I will happily do it. But if I'm getting started and I've got $1,000, I'm not spending $1,000 on some dude that tells me I can go make $100,000 tomorrow. It's a pipe dream. That's how, why are they not doing it? Why are they selling that, right? Like it's not real. Get started, don't stay on the sidelines. But yeah, you stole the words out of my mouth, so yeah. There you go.
Understood.
Yeah.
Go to the next one. Okay, all right, so how do you condense contractor quotes, raising money, and finalizing your budget all during due diligence? So this was a question we got from the investors in this room that basically you got something under contract, had an offer accepted, obviously. Can y'all hear me? Yeah? Okay. So they had something under contract, and basically over the course of their due diligence period, they weren't able to get contractor estimates back. They weren't able to raise the private money that they needed, so the deal then fell out of contract and went past their closing date, right? So, yeah. Everybody have any feedback on this one?
All right, so, yeah, so it starts before you go under contract. Like, you're gonna have your connections with your hard money, with your private money, with your contractors, and everybody you need. That starts before you even negotiate the deal. My contractors are chomping at the bits for stuff to do, always asking and always ready to go look. If I put something under contract, I'm texting them and they're going to look at it today. So it starts before you go under contract. It starts before the deal even starts. It starts before you even know the house. Outside of that, I'm lining up every contractor. I'm not just one and done. I'm not just one and done on a lender. I'm not one and done on a contractor. I have multiple vendors coming out. I'm getting it all lined up. Day one, I'm not dragging it out. I'm not waiting till the last day to do it all. But I hope that that's not just too vague of an answer, but like really, it starts by networking in here and finding your contractors and getting your systems in place so that when you do go into a due diligence, 7 to 14 days should be plenty enough to have contractors walk through, have bids come back, and know your pricing so that when your bids come back and you don't like them, you negotiate with your contractor just like you do with a seller. A contractor, it's not gospel and it's not a set price. So you've got that time to negotiate. You go into it knowing you've got your other 2 or 3 contractors who will be dying for that job, and your pricing is what it is, and you know he's high or you know he's right on. So it starts before the deal.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I would say is that if you're gonna get something under contract, at least have a hard money relationship, private money relationships, maybe somebody who offers construction loan products, lender, right? Have somebody, at least a couple options on deck that can potentially fund that deal. Don't get something under contract and have no way of funding it. Because you're kind of putting the chicken before the egg at that point.
Who else in the room has a very good system process for condensing everything before the end of your due diligence period?
I got an idea. It works. So when you are buying any type of house, you need to know what you're buying, right? So you need to have a decent game plan of what it's going to take to get to the finish line and what that budget potentially is going to look like. Going in blind, if you will, and hoping and believing that you're putting it under contract. I see too many times they're coming in too high on the contract, not knowing the true end budget. And, you know, even once you put all your budgets together, you need a basic buffer account that says, I'm probably gonna hit something that I don't see right now. And most people don't have that. Most people don't add the holding costs, most people don't add the insurance. And then when you do go to sell it and you don't budget out what the end true cost ends up being, and what ends up happening is you overpay in the front end and you end up not having enough money to make it on the back end. So until you can analyze all aspects of the cost, it's not just the cost to, you know, paint, floor, and so forth. Those are pretty much line items that you can get a bulk price, square footage price, and plug and play. It's the total cost of ownership of the entire equation that I see most new people missing. They're like, hey, this is a great deal, it makes 50 grand. And I'm like, hey, there's holding costs, there's insurance, then I gotta sell it at that price point. I gotta pay closing costs. It's funny, we had 3 to 6% closing costs paid. Add that to the deal, now we're down to, you know, $14,000 if this thing goes perfect. And they're like, oh, crap, I thought it was 50 grand, right? And so knowing that is a big piece of that puzzle.
Yeah. And whoever submitted this question, if you don't mind clarifying, I'm interested just for the room as well. What was your due diligence period in the contract?
That was my question. I wanted to know, how many days are you asking, or some of you are waiving their inspection? How many people in here waive their inspection?
Okay, raise your hand if you waive your inspection period. Raise your hand if your inspection period is 10 days or less. All right, raise your hand if your inspection period is 20 days. Okay, so most people are working with a 10-day inspection?
7.
7?
That's much. I mean, I just signed 2 right there.
I mean, typically the faster you can close, the better deal you can get, right? You can tell people, hey, look, I've got cash, I can buy your property. As soon as title clears, we can close. I can close in a week, for example. That's how you're gonna get the best deals if you're marketing direct to seller and trying to buy properties directly from sellers. But in order to do that, you have to know, again, you have to know what your numbers are. You have to know your holding costs. You have to know what your rehab's going to cost you. You have to at least have a pretty decent idea of what those things are going to be. That's what you need to base your offer on. And then once the offer's accepted, you should just be able to send out the title. As soon as the title clears, close it and start going. So that's the biggest thing that I would recommend in terms of trying to get things closed.
Yeah, like that's pretty much the same point, and like to elaborate more on that too, you have to buy a good deal. Like, and I only tell you this because you've done really well on another deal, and I'm gonna be hard on you because you know what you're doing. Like, it has to be a good deal. There's plenty of people in this room that I have sold deals to in the past, and I've bent over backwards and tried to justify why they needed to buy my deal. It was not a deal. It was just not a deal. Like, it has to be a deal. If it's a deal, you will have people chomping at the bits to JV that deal with you, to fund that deal for you, to do whatever. Like, you have to be so sold on the fact that it's a deal and know for a fact that by any means you're closing this deal with a partner or without, whatever it takes. Like, to his point, like, you have to know your numbers and it has to be a deal. If you can't close it, it's probably not a deal. Like, and I hated when people told me that when I was starting. I hated that because I'm so convinced my spreadsheet tells me it is, and maybe it is, and maybe you weren't fully convinced that it really was a deal for you either. You know, like, so you have to have a deal. It all starts with a deal. Like, all of this group, us up here, everybody in here, like, it starts with a deal. That's all that matters. You make your money on the buy. So it's got to be a deal. If it's a deal, it will work. You will find someone to buy it with you. You will find someone to partner on it, to fund it, whatever it might be.
You can't be 100% confident in it. You can't expect your buyers to be 100% confident or your seller.
Right.
That is the deal.
All right, someone answer this one. How are you raising private money? Who has raised private money?
So what I do is first it's friends and family, and then friends or business owners that you know, you go talk to them, and before you leave, you ask for a referral. Ask for referrals.
Yeah.
That's your next meeting if they don't have the money.
Yeah, that's
Referrals.
friends, family, and referrals.
Unless I'm mistaken,
mistaken the guidance of the Securities and Exchange Commission, because a mortgage on a property is considered a security, it kind of falls under their purview. They don't want you trying to do a securities investment with anybody who they say is not a family member, a friend, or an associate, unless you actually have something like a syndication structure or something else along those lines. So their guidelines for family, friend, or associate is somebody that you've had 3 touches with over a minimum of 30 days. So the first time you're talking to somebody, you can say, yes, I do real estate deals, but don't mention a specific deal or funding opportunity to them. And say, hey, I'd like to talk to you about this again sometime next week. Second touch, meet them for lunch or something like that, okay? 30 days rolls around, meet them the 3rd time, you're then good to go as far as the Securities and Exchange Commission is concerned. Be very careful about using words like guarantees in it, and you should be good.
What I like to do is send them an email, because that's like part of y'all's document, your communication. So you can actually prove 30 days.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying.
I talk way too much, but I have so much to say. It's so funny that like the SEC has to literally say 3 touch points. Do you think you're gonna go raise $100,000 to $500,000 on the first handshake? Like, why does the SEC have to say that? Done. I mean, I don't know how people think that you're gonna just drop on your Instagram bio that you're a real estate investor and all of a sudden money's gonna be falling from the sky. It's like, you have to get in the game and you have to prove you know what you're doing and back that up. That backs up your conversations with your private money, right? Like, you're gonna get on Bigger Pockets, you're gonna hear us talking here. It's all the same advice, it's friends and family. I have only purely done all of my deals off of private money and it's all friends and family. I've stumbled into a hedge fund or 2 along the way from friends and family, but it is all friends and family related, and it's all come from some follow-up to a conversation, a follow-up to a lunch, a follow-up to, oh, you're in real estate? Yeah, I am. Like, you ever thought I get it? No, I don't want the risk, but I thought about it. We have 401k, it's your self-direct. Do you have capital sitting? Do you have a CD that's making 5% or make it 8%? Like, it just comes from that talk. Like, I think it's hilarious that they make us have a 3-point, like, yeah, no shit. Like, what do you expect? How else do you expect to raise that money? So, yeah, it's like talking about what you're doing, getting into the game, and actually doing it so that you can back up what you're doing when you go actually raise that money.
I want to keep hearing from you because these guys are raising, so a thing or 2.
The thing is, it's gonna take you 3, if this is your first deal, your second deal, or your 4th or 5th deal, it's gonna take you 3 meetings to convince them to give you, for them to give you money.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, the SEC, they're really to protect the institutions and all, and, you know, these family offices. Your friends and family and your folks, those are the ones that are gonna see. So know your partners that you bring on, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one thing you can talk to your friends and family about is, just makes it really simple, is, hey, you know that money you have sitting aside in that money market account where you're getting like, 4.5%? I'll give you 9. And just tell them what you're doing and tell them, give them some background in the deal and make them feel comfortable. And if they know you and they trust you, there's a decent chance they're gonna take that double return on their money versus the money that's just sitting aside in an emergency fund in the money market account.
Anyone else before we go to the next one?
Sorry. Can I say one thing? I'm asking, can I, yeah,
The last thing, do not judge or prejudge who is an investor and who is not. My first private money came from one of my childhood friends' parents who I never knew, would never think anything other, and they're one of my biggest investors, right? So do not prejudge, don't think, oh, so-and-so may have, because the people who you think have it really don't, or they may be a little more, strict and 112 or 15% or something crazy. So, don't prejudge, just talk about what you're doing and let your actions, let your business back what you're doing, and you'd be shocked at the people you run into who actually have capital in place.
All right, now is the open mic part. So it's your question tonight. What problems are you facing? So guidelines on this. Try not to make your question too specific to where. I got it.
Okay. It's, this is got in here is, how do you guys know you're getting good labor costs? Price per square foot. How do you?
A little bit louder. A little bit closer. Get into it.
How do y'all know
There we go.
your price per square foot? Plumbing, HVAC, electrical. How are you, I'd like to hear from the entire room. I mean, I have my own ideas, but I'm really interested in, how do you know you're getting on labor? How do you, like, if you're renovating low income, like a lot of the assets we have are low income. But as y'all know, pricing comes all over the place. What are y'all processes for determining, like some guys, I can get to lay floor for $2 a square foot. But when they lay floor for $2 a square foot, they can shoot more than baseboards. Some guys charge $2 a square foot just for laying floor, and they charge another $1 a square foot for shooting more than baseboards. Plumbers, some plumbers charge by fixture. I can go on and on, painting, you know, and cabinets. I'd just like to hear from the room, guys who've been in the game, flipping a lot of houses. What is your metric to determine that piece?
So I've been in real estate for about 25, 26 years, and what I've learned is relationships are more key than just a price per square foot. And so when you're dealing with these quotes, you can burn a bridge real quick, and you can build a bridge real quick. So I'm not gonna go to, say, you at 250, when you're at 3, just because you're at 250, but you've done the last 10 deals. I know you're at 3, I know your quality, so the relationship's more important in most transactions than the price per square foot. So when you're getting these prices, such as a dumpster, okay, that's a good example. I can have a dumpster delivered in 2 hours because he knows that I'll pay for it, and he knows that he's gonna get paid again, and he's gonna ask for it again. Whereas the next person says, I can get a dumpster in a week and a half. Well, I'm now 2 weeks behind on the project. So just the same with flooring. Yes, you may get somebody out there for $1.50. You don't know the quality you're gonna get. So learning that relationship is more key than the price that you're asking.
Can y'all hear us in the back okay?
Yeah, y'all can hear us back, okay? Awesome. All right, what's the other question? Question you have in your business? I'm in the back half of the room. You got a question in your business?
What do we do about Woodbine? Does anybody here get Woodbine? The one in Rockford?
Woodbine. I saw that. Saw it.
And second, what are your thoughts on buying properties that caught on fire?
What is your thoughts on buying properties that have caught on fire and are not still on fire?
I was gonna say, make sure the fire's out first.
Is anyone on the back?
When I first bought my triplex, one of the units had caught on fire, and I just jumped right into the fire pit. Didn't know what was going on. Luckily, I didn't have to, I only had to remodel that one unit with electricity and everything. So I had to go from straight from the bottom, get permits and everything. So now that I know what to do, they don't scare me.
Follow-up question on the fire. What are you asking?
Yes, my first house actually burned down, and the thing that scared me away from trying to remodel it and try to flip it or anything, the mold certifications and then the electric wiring. So when I was getting estimates for all that stuff, it was going to be approaching or more than the cost of the renovation itself. So, and then when I sold my burned down house, the guy that bought it from me, he had it back on the market within less than 6 months. So, I'm wondering, I never found out what he did. But yeah, if you know, the best way to deal with that kind of stuff, I would love to hear.
So on our triplex, we gutted it all out because part of there aren't any so we've gathered everything up. And what I learned from the city is that if it's out of your skin on the wood, it has to be replaced. If it's not, all you do is you kilt it. Kilt it. You put primer kilt. And that will kill the mold, that will kill everything. And then you go through your equipment, you slap that, put it together, and you're done.
You just slap around your move on.
Best window replacement company, and how much per window do they charge?
Window replacement company?
I'd make a comment, Window World will quote you a price for a window. It's very similar to the U-Haul ad for rent this truck as little as $19.95. But you're not getting out the door for any less than $70. Okay? They'll sell you a window for $199, but then there's the removal, the installation, the trim, and a bunch of other stuff that's added on. So I recommend getting a quote. I have friends who have worked for Tommy's and who have used Tommy's and who have said good things about them, but I have not used them personally, so I can't speak about it authoritatively.
I'm at $525 a window. Please beat it.
So,
Seems like a good deal.
Turn it on when it's like my deal.
Oh, there we go. Okay. So I have not used any window replacement companies, Tim, to answer your question. But from talking with people who do a lot of window replacements, the best way to do it for cheap, or I guess more inexpensive, is to buy your windows and have your contractors install them. Contractors that you trust that are giving you good labor rates. So, because I mean, if you're going to hire the window company, think about it, right? They're running ads, they got to pay their people, they got to pay for the truck, they have all this overhead, they're going to charge you for that, right? And if you got an independent contractor who knows what he's doing, can properly install the window, he can do it for a lot less. Yeah.
It's through the window company directly, it's a lifetime warranty.
Okay.
Just FYI, I really would like a better record.
Are you keeping it or flipping it?
Keeping, preferably.
Okay, all right, so that lifetime warranty. I mean, have you read the fine print on the warranty? Because a lot of times these companies will say, oh yeah, lifetime warranty until the name storm comes through, and then it's not covered anymore. Like your shingles.
As long as it's not your fault.
What's that?
They have replaced a few free,
Okay.
just through, let's say, rock hits.
Okay. I think you just gotta look at the numbers and figure out how much that warranty is worth to you. Because if you can get it done for $300 a window with the contract crew, you know, I don't know if it's worth the extra to pay, you know, to get the warranty. Especially if you're paying half price. You know, if one of the windows breaks, you're basically at what you would have paid for a window anyways. And only have
Yeah,
one or
I don't know if this will help, cause like I know you're buying, is this on the whole units? Okay. And on flips in the past, the one time I had to do entire windows, I knew I was gonna have to do it from the jump. And in that process, I had my guys gut it, and I did Window World, and I did like the interest free, and I just paid it when I sold it. So I went into it knowing what I was gonna pay. I had them do the rip out, trim it, whatever it ended up being, whatever it was. Took it down from like that 500 to like 250. Only other time I've been asked to do windows is on an inspection, and I just give that concessions. I don't mess with it. I don't know if that doesn't help on the holding, but yeah, you're welcome. All right, next question.
We got a few more minutes before we get back to networking. Who else has questions, something you're wondering in your business?
Hi everyone. More of a rookie in the room looking to get in, particularly through house hacking. If anyone in the room has gone through that way, what were kind of the challenges that you had? And for anyone looking more into multi-family house hacking, I've noticed most of them are in less than desirable areas. If anyone has gone in through that way, I'm really looking for any tips, any advice in that direction.
Has anyone done house hacking? Before I go to that side of the room, has anyone on this side of the room done house hacking? Okay, give us that.
I'll project. Okay, house hacking, tenant screening is critical. Critical. Learn what you are federally prohibited from just discriminating against, and then discriminate against every other thing that's not on that list. If I'm house hacking and it's a place where I'm living, I'm going to meet the person in a public place and get a feel for them before I actually give them a tour of the property. Okay? And get a hold of decent tenant screening software and make sure that the ID that they hand you actually matches who they are. I want to say Easy Landlord Forms did a pretty good time. Last time that I used them was only a couple of bucks. You don't need all their personal information. They fill it out online and you get a recommendation, yes or no. One of the things that my brother does, he does properties in Pennsylvania, is if he's having a new potential tenant, whether it's house hacking or for one of his other properties, filling stuff out, okay? He'll actually have them sign most of the forms and then call them up 20 minutes later and say, oh, I'm so sorry, there's one other form I forgot. So he'll go and see where they're living there, okay? If I'm meeting somebody in a public place, I'm gonna ask them to see their proof of insurance and their car registration. Well, why would I wanna see that? 2 reasons. 1, do they keep up with their responsibilities? 2, do they have 6 months of McDonald's wrappers in the back of their car? Might be a hint that it's not gonna work out very well. That's my recommendation. Tenant screening is terribly, terribly important when you're doing it. Multifamily, it's going to be a little bit more. You may or may not want to disclose that you're the property manager who's living on site, or they may want to take advantage of that. That would be my off the top of my head advice.
And I would say house hacking in Baton Rouge is really tough. For whatever reason, Baton Rouge just does not believe in multifamily. I mean, there's a few duplexes, a couple quads in like okay areas, but everybody wants like $1 million for their quadplex. So I know it's harder to like, think about going the route, but like renting by room and being on campus and buying, like taking advantage of like an Alvarez or a DSLD kind of loan product where you can get a 4-bedroom house and rent the bedrooms out. That's honestly probably the best route to house hack in Baton Rouge. Just, you're not gonna get a lot of safe, good value multifamily in Baton Rouge. It's just kind of the bummer of our market. It's just not a lot out there. So if I were you, I'd be looking at like 4-bedroom, DSLD, Alvarez type houses that are new with warranties. They've got loan products for you. They'll get you on your, everyone thinks there's a first time home buyer. There's never really no such thing. It's just, there's buy downs and credits that those builders will get you on that kind of house. And you'll do much better on that by renting out by the room, where your note might be, I don't know what Alvarez is at right now, but $300K, your note's probably, Patrick, what's a $300K note right now? $2,500 a month? So you're at like $2,500 a month, and you got 3 bedrooms to rent out at like $800 a month plus utilities. You're breaking even, you're paying your note down, you're in real estate, and then ultimately, if that loan's, and I don't know how this works, again, you might want to talk, that's why it's helpful. There's people in here that will help you with that, but once you have that like Fannie, Freddie kind of loan on that, you could rent your bedroom out and go do it again and buy conventional on the next one. So I would house hack more of like literal houses, not so much multi, unless you just want to live in like really, really sketchy areas, which if you're house hacking, you're living there and it's just not, I wouldn't do it. So I would look at houses, I would look at an Alvarez or DSLD kind of product, not so much multifamily. You may find it, I don't see a lot of good, safe multifamily that I would personally live in Baton Rouge.
Good follow up on that. On the screening, find you a good property manager who can help you screen tenants. That's what they do. They can definitely help with that. And the risk on that is more, has anyone done rent by the room?
Rent by the room? Yeah.
Any tips on renting by the room?
I think the same thing, tenant screening is key because you're actually living in the house, so knowing the person, making sure you vibe with them because you're gonna wake up to them every single day. I think setting the expectations up front too when someone's in your house, like if you're particular about something, make sure you communicate that up front because sometimes it can be a little awkward when you have a roommate that you don't really know and maybe something's bothering you that you didn't up front talk about. So just having those clear communications and then making sure they pay everything. her question was, how do I divvy up the utilities? Do I pay for it fully or do I divide that? Honestly, I just pay for it. I pay for it solely and then I include that in their monthly rent. So up front, I usually just pay, the room is $750 a month, all bills paid, so that they know every single month. Because if you try to divvy up utilities, it's just gonna be more admin work for you. It's not really worth it for an extra $30, $60. Just go ahead and include that in monthly rent.
I split it, and I basically would just show them a copy of the bill and tell them what their half was. I think I included water, but because they may either want to run the heat a lot or run the AC more than I did, I basically was trying to figure out, okay, is the admin versus them covering out the big expense that I may not would have otherwise been covered. One other thing I want to mention is if this is going to be your first potential home buy, check out Louisiana Housing Corporation. Last time I checked, they had some products out there for first-time home buyers. They can give you something like a soft second on your house, and you may end up with a lot more equity if you stay in it for a couple of years.
So, we, just real quick, so we have a rental and we have a detached garage and we're converting that hopefully to a short-term rental. So we just have one flat rate for our long-term rental and we just included internet and utilities and everything. And so that way, you know, the hopefully short-term rental, if not, we're gonna convert it to a long-term rental, but that's all like covered. And we're gonna use whatever income we have from that in order to pay down the note, because we use just like a bare bone detached garage, we had to literally convert it into, you know, house. And so that's how we're working that. And so all that's just gonna go, we're gonna dump all the money into that to be down loan and then hopefully cash flows.
Any more questions? Who else has a question? We'll take one more. One more question.
Very generic, but what specific areas are your most favorite and least favorite to invest in and why?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go.
I want to hear from you, bro. Come on, you've been talking all night, bro. We want to hear it. Let's go. I know, that's why I'm telling you.
So, we actually did a presentation on this a few years ago. There's a lot of areas in North Baton Rouge that pencil really well or have really good Excel magic, where you think of cash flow heavily, but there's a lot of intangibles that you don't take into account, like how much they destroy the property, how much turnover there is. And so you really have to incorporate a lot more vacancy repair and maintenance. And the fact that insurance is not linear. So you could, you buy a $300,000 house, you can figure, okay, I'm gonna pay 1% insurance. But when you buy a $30,000 house, you end up paying 6% insurance. So, a lot of times those lower income areas can seemingly be more attractive. And I know a lot of people that make a lot of money in them, but they can also, that cash flow can be met pretty heavily with a lot of the intangibles that you don't initially undertake.
Okay, now we'll go to the front of the room.
I hate 100 to 200K houses. Because as a rental, I'll clarify, 150 and under on a rental is really tough because that's where, to his point, it pencils out the cash flows on refis, they suck because you're trying to justify that 100K refi value, and if the appraisal's off by just a smidge, it throws everything. Ask me how I know. 100 to 200K on a flip, it's an FHA buyer, so you're sitting around waiting. your guys most likely are gonna finish your project, you're gonna be waiting on that FHA buyer. That one's gonna fall through, your next one's gonna fall through, and your next one's gonna fall through. Your fourth one, you're gonna have to give like 20,000 in concessions to get them there. So I hate 100 to 200K price points. Very hard on rentals and very hard on flips for me right now. I love 200 to 350 flips. 350, 400 and above on flips are also just as terrible because they're picky buyers. And it's such a subjective market right now at that price point that one buyer may not like the yard. That one buyer may not like the pennant over the kitchen sink, and that buyer doesn't care how easy or hard it is to make those adjustments, they're just gonna walk on it. So there's a sweet spot.
Asia, we're not flippers.
Yeah.
What was that price point you said?
I like 200 to 400 or so. 200 to 350 is like really the sweet spot. Under 200 gets dicey for me. Like the sweet spot for rentals, 150 to 200 or so ARV. Under that starts getting hard on the refi because I refi myself out the SUR. So it gets dicey. So 200 and below flipping is really hard to flip it because the buyer pool is just not strong right now. And then, you know, refining again on that rental is just hard because of the buyers.
So you're looking for that 250 sales price.
Yeah, ideally 250, 300 is my stuff that sells like.
That's not my question.
Yeah.
Is where they're selling it.
Yeah. Yeah. And a fourth bedroom means the world right now. Like you got 250 or 3 bedrooms, no one cares. Only people buying right now that need to buy at that price point need that fourth bedroom and can't afford the 350 or plus at a 7% mortgage right now. So that's that sweet spot. Yeah.
Okay, I'm confused. Did you just say that anything under 200,000 you didn't want to buy because it's a hard market for the buyer?
Yes, so the buyer struggles to qualify between like that 100 to 200 mark, right? So like you got an FHA buyer, already having an FHA buyer and being pretty much confined to that's harder to sell right now because you're waiting on the FHA buyer. And a lot of people with the interest rates where they're at right now are having trouble qualifying at that 100 to 200, so they're harder flips to sell.
Well, that's a hot market right now.
The key is having
The right lender.
reputable lenders that they're working with.
Sure.
And then you know, they're gonna be close.
Sure.
Just closed 7 of them last month.
But I guarantee you that local.
Yeah, I got very good lenders, very good.
Yeah.
I didn't talk to y'all. I didn't find some good lenders yet.
So let's open up the mic to her right quick.
Yeah. I want to hear.
Hey man, I got a question.
No, I do. I want to hear. I mean, can you elaborate?
I've been doing this for 27 years, I'm a real estate agent.
Okay.
I came to this meeting tonight to really hook back up with wholesale.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like you and JB, so don't even go there with me. So I want to do the buy, and I can get a lot of sellers, and I want the end buyer in the middle, right? But, you know, my investor just bought 5 properties last week, just left from there earlier, we'll have them ready in 32 days. I am learning his process, I've been his agent for 7 years, and he's got it down. Now, the only thing that happened to him, and this was the question I was gonna bring up, but I don't want anybody to get offended by it, was, he said, you know, so I hired this, he's a general contractor guy, he's licensed, bonded. He wants to hire the subcontractors, so he's got the subcontractors there, which I met today. And he said, you know, I was paying them half up front, and then, you know, when they're done, you know, he didn't do a draw, it's fine. His question he asked me today is, what happens if I pay them half up front, like I was doing last year, and then tomorrow ICE comes and picks it up? He's got a very good question, and I was totally stumped on it. Now, let me clear this up. ICE ain't going to school, he ain't got kids out, so let's get that straight. But I do understand what he is saying about if you hire, we'll use my example, a Mexican crew, I love me some avocados and guacamayos, okay? And if you hire them, and you're going to pay them, and my investor's kind of worried, because I already know what the going price is to paint the outside of the house, the inside of the house, I've seen this crew, they've been working for him, and he is kind of scared now. My investor's from Russia, legal. So he's kind of worried about that, I couldn't answer that question. Do you run across that issue? Have you ran across that yet? Do you hire contractors that are sometimes not? Come on, man, I know you go to Home Depot and wait in the morning for that 200. Right? So how are you going about this with this, well, we're all crazy, right? Well, I just, I know the world. I understand gambling, I go to casino all the time.
What is the question?
You gotta seal that back to them, right? You only lend out what you're willing to get. So, for instance, if you go get 50%, but you're able to bring it back to 50, you're not looking to finish your job. Anything can happen with any type of contract, so the white flag.
Right.
So you got a risk there, and you got to manage that risk by what you're willing to put out.
Right, and that's kind of the answer I gave him today. I said, look, you can have the white man, he can go home and slap his wife tonight, and he might not show up tomorrow. Right? I mean, that's the truth. I mean, you get arrested for crazy stuff, so I mean, it's happened. So I was stumped by that about 3 hours ago. I was like, I never thought of it.
You know, the risk by what you pay for.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank y'all. So look, I hope y'all enjoyed it. Again, thank you to our sponsors, Mike, Patrick, really appreciate y'all sponsoring. If you're interested, please let any of us know if you want to sponsor, and we'll get you on the slideshow, we'll get you in the Facebook group. Other than that, we appreciate y'all coming. We're here until about 8:45-ish, give or take, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Thank y'all.